They called you heartless. No, you just found peace in silence. You're not cold, you're in control. You're not numb, you've simply learned the power of the pause. Caring is a beautiful thing, until it becomes your downfall. You start with the purest intentions. You show up, you give, you listen, and you love with your whole heart. You keep showing up even when they don't. You stay loyal even when they disappear. You believe in them even when they give you every reason not to. And little by little, you begin to lose pieces of yourself in the name of being good, in the name of love, or simply because you don't know how to walk away. But caring too much, when it's not mutual, when it's not respected, doesn't make you stronger. It silently breaks you. It turns your empathy into exhaustion, your hope into heartache, and your love into a one-sided war. You start feeling like you're too much and never enough at the same time. You pour all your energy into them, hoping they'll notice, hoping they'll appreciate it, hoping they'll finally give back what you've been giving all along. But all they return is silence, excuses, half-truths, and an endless waiting game that slowly eats away at your spirit. You start overthinking everything, wondering if you said something wrong, if you cared too deeply, if you expected too much. But deep down, you know the truth. You were just giving to someone who was never ready to receive. And that's not your failure, it's your lesson. The pain isn't just in what they did. It's in what you allowed to keep happening. It's in every time you saw the red flags and made excuses. It's in every moment you showed grace when you should have set boundaries. And it's in every chance you gave when you should have walked away. You weren't weak for caring. You were strong for loving through it all. But strength isn't about staying where you're disrespected. It's about learning when to stop giving your soul to people who treat it like it's disposable. Eventually, your body starts to feel what your mind refuses to accept. You feel drained, tired for no reason, emotionally heavy, like you're carrying someone else's weight on your shoulders. That's what happens when you care too much without care in return. It creates an emotional imbalance that robs you of joy, clarity, and peace. You lose focus, you stop dreaming, and you begin to feel numb. And the saddest part is, they might never notice what they took from you, because they were never paying attention in the first place. But here's the shift. When you recognize this cycle, you can break it. You can stop chasing people who don't care if you're hurting. You can stop explaining your worth to those committed to misunderstanding you. And most importantly, you can start pouring that same care into yourself. Because the truth is, the right people won't drain you. They'll match your energy, respect your efforts, and protect your peace. But you won't meet them until you stop bleeding for those who never bothered to clean their hands. Emotional mastery is one of the most misunderstood strengths. People often think that becoming emotionless means you've gone numb, that you've lost the ability to feel, to empathize, to care. But that couldn't be further from the truth. True emotional mastery isn't about becoming cold or detached. It's about becoming unshakable. It means you still feel deeply, you still care, you still hurt, but you no longer allow those emotions to control your actions or define your responses. You've trained yourself not to react impulsively. You've taught your heart to observe before it speaks. You've learned how to sit in the fire without flinching, to hold the storm within you without letting it spill into your world. It's easy to be triggered, to snap, to lash out, to break down every time someone disrespects you or life throws something unfair in your face. That takes no strength. Anyone can react when they're angry or hurt. But to remain calm in chaos, to remain silent when your ego is begging to speak, that's power, that's control, that's emotional discipline, the kind that turns ordinary people into leaders, warriors, and legends. It doesn't mean you don't feel the sting of betrayal, the heat of anger, or the ache of disappointment. It simply means those emotions no longer run your life. There's a difference between suppression and self-control. Suppression is pretending you're fine when you're not. It's bottling things up until you explode. But self-control, it's awareness. It's knowing exactly what you feel, but choosing not to let that feeling become your identity or your weapon. It's understanding the consequences of emotional impulsivity and valuing your peace enough to protect it at all costs. Emotional mastery allows you to respond with clarity instead of chaos. It gives you the ability to make decisions rooted in wisdom, not temporary feelings. It helps you walk away from what doesn't serve you, not out of bitterness, but from a place of inner balance. People may call you cold when you no longer react the way you used to. They'll think you don't care simply because you stopped entertaining their drama. But they don't understand. It's not that you stopped feeling, it's that you started healing. You realize that every time you react to negativity, you feed it. Every time you argue with someone committed to misunderstanding you, you lose energy. Every time you let someone push your buttons, you hand them your power. And that's no longer acceptable. You don't rise by fighting every battle. You rise by mastering your emotions so deeply that nothing outside of you can control what's inside of you. That's the level where peace lives. That's where clarity grows. That's where real power begins, not in being untouched by pain, but in being unmoved by chaos. You're still human, but now you lead your emotions instead of letting them lead you. And that quiet control, that calm in the middle of the storm, that's not weakness. That's strength at its highest form. When you choose silence in a moment of conflict, you're not letting the other person win. You're not backing down. You're simply choosing to not lower yourself to their level. You're choosing to protect your peace instead of proving your point. And that takes far more power than throwing words around like weapons. Because once words are out, they can't be taken back. Silence, on the other hand, gives you time. Time to reflect. Time to respond, not just react. It gives you space to process your emotions and to recognize whether something truly deserves your energy or not. Discipline is built in those small pauses. The breath you take before speaking. The moment you step back instead of stepping in. That quiet space holds the potential to change everything. Most people react immediately because they feel threatened or offended. Their pride takes over, and their need to be right drowns out their ability to be wise. But silence shifts the dynamic. It keeps you in control. You're no longer a puppet to your emotions or to someone else's actions. You become the observer, the strategist, the one who understands that not everything deserves a response, and not every moment is worth your voice. Some of the strongest people say the least, not because they're timid, but because they've outgrown the need to explain themselves. They know their value. They understand that silence is often louder than words. It speaks of self-trust. It signals that you're not easily rattled. And most importantly, it shows that you've mastered the art of restraint in a world that thrives on reaction. Silence makes people uncomfortable because it forces them to sit with their own noise. But for those who understand its value, silence is a sanctuary. It's where you find your strength, gather your thoughts, and rise with intention instead of impulse. When you learn to pause, you learn to protect your energy. You become someone who doesn't just respond to life, but commands it. That's not weakness. That's emotional intelligence. That's maturity. That's power. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember, the loudest person in the room isn't always the strongest. Sometimes it's the one who says nothing, who observes, who waits, and who walks away with their peace intact. That's the kind of strength silence holds. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are doors you choose when and how to open. They are the invisible lines you draw to protect your well-being, your time, your peace, and your mental clarity. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It's one of the highest acts of self-respect. When you recognize that your emotions, your energy, and your peace are sacred, you stop handing them out like free samples. You understand that not everyone deserves immediate or unrestricted access to your inner world. You start choosing who gets to come close, who gets to stay, and who needs to be kept at a distance. That's not cold, it's healthy, it's necessary. Too many people feel guilty for saying no. They fear being seen as rude, distant, or unkind. But the truth is, every time you say yes to someone or something that drains you, you are saying no to yourself. You're trading your peace to avoid discomfort. But peace isn't something you give away to keep others comfortable. It's something you protect fiercely and unapologetically. Boundaries are how you teach others how to treat you. If you constantly make yourself available, people will come to expect that. If you never speak up when someone disrespects your time, they will assume it doesn't matter. But once you begin honoring your space, others are forced to either respect it or lose access to it. You don't owe anyone immediate emotional availability. Just because someone demands an answer doesn't mean they deserve one. Just because someone texts you doesn't mean you're obligated to reply right away. Just because someone is loud doesn't mean their opinion is more important than your silence. When you learn to pause before giving pieces of yourself away, you reclaim power. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You begin living in alignment with your values rather than other people's expectations. It's not about cutting people off out of bitterness. It's about choosing yourself with clarity. It's about recognizing when a connection has become one-sided, toxic, or draining, and having the courage to address it or walk away. Boundaries are the filters that keep your energy clean. They separate what builds you from what breaks you. They don't need to be explained to everyone. You don't have to justify your peace. If someone truly values you, they'll understand when you say, "I need space," or "This doesn't work for me." And if they don't respect that, they were never for you in the first place. Your peace is not a group project. It's your personal responsibility. And protecting it is not a crime, it's wisdom. You are not obligated to be available 24/7. You are not here to be everything for everyone. You're here to be whole, balanced, and in tune with your own soul. That starts with boundaries. Because when you honor yourself, you teach the world how to honor you too. And that is the ultimate act of self-respect. Feeling deeply is not a weakness, it's a gift. It means your soul is awake, your heart is alive, and your spirit is in tune with the world around you. But depth of feeling without direction can lead to chaos. That's where wisdom comes in. Emotional intelligence is not about shutting off your emotions or pretending not to care. It's about allowing yourself to feel fully while choosing to respond with clarity rather than impulse. It's about understanding that every emotion is valid, but not every reaction is necessary. There is a common misconception that strong people don't feel, that strength means being detached, cold, or numb. But true strength lies in the balance, the ability to feel anger without letting it make you cruel, to feel sadness without letting it drown your joy, to feel disappointment without letting it shape your identity. Emotional intelligence is learning to pause and examine your emotions, not to bury them. It's the discipline to ask yourself, "Why do I feel this way?" before asking, "What should I do next?" Reacting out of emotion may give momentary relief, but often leads to long-term regret. Wise movement begins with stillness. It begins with a breath between the trigger and your choice. That space, however small, is where your power lives. That's where you decide if this situation deserves your energy, your attention, or your silence. That's where you take back control. You don't become emotionally intelligent by denying your feelings. You become emotionally intelligent by becoming curious about them. You learn to sit with your anger, to trace its root, to understand its voice. You learn to observe your sadness without judgment, to honor it without being owned by it. You begin to realize that your emotions are not instructions, they're information, and how you respond to that information shapes your life. Emotional maturity is knowing that not every offense needs a response. That just because someone hurt you doesn't mean you must hurt them back. That just because something went wrong doesn't mean you must spiral. It's about recognizing that your emotions are part of the story, but not the whole story. You can feel deeply and still move with purpose. You can cry and still keep going. You can be heartbroken and still make decisions that serve your growth. In a world that moves fast and reacts even faster, slowing down to process your feelings is an act of rebellion. It's a form of self-mastery. It's choosing presence over panic, reflection over reaction, peace over proving a point. And when you master this, you become a force, calm, centered, and unshakable, not because you don't feel, but because you do. And you've learned how to carry your emotions without letting them carry you. Feel deeply, that's your humanity. But move wisely, that's your evolution. Because emotional intelligence isn't about being less emotional, it's about being more aware. And awareness is where your power begins. Letting go is one of the hardest things a person can do. It's not always about anger or resentment. It's often about survival. It's about realizing that not everyone is meant to walk every chapter with you. You don't owe your presence to people who continually rob you of your peace, energy, or sense of self. Choosing to walk away isn't a sign of coldness, it's a reflection of clarity. You've finally seen the situation for what it is, and you're choosing yourself not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. People will try to make you feel guilty for creating boundaries, for saying no, for walking away from what no longer serves your growth. They will call you distant, heartless, changed. But what they're really saying is this: I can no longer benefit from your silence, your sacrifice, or your self-neglect. That's not your burden to carry. You are not responsible for how others react to your healing. You were never put on this earth to shrink for others, to constantly explain yourself, or to remain stuck in cycles of emotional debt. You don't have to justify your peace to anyone. Your soul is not a battleground. And if preserving your well-being makes others uncomfortable, that's a reflection of their expectations, not your value. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you cared so deeply that you tried again and again until you realized that trying was hurting more than helping. It means you finally understood that love is not supposed to cost you your sanity, your joy, or your dignity. It means you stopped confusing pain with loyalty and guilt with obligation. Protecting your peace often comes with silence, with unanswered messages, with walks taken alone and tears cried in private. It comes with lonely nights and empty spaces where certain people used to be. But eventually, peace settles in, not the kind that's loud or dramatic, but the kind that whispers, "You did the right thing." The kind that lets you breathe again, think clearly again, sleep deeply again. You're not cold, you're not unkind, you're not bitter. You're just clear. Clear on who you are, what you deserve, and what you will no longer tolerate. That's not weakness. That's power. That's growth. That's freedom. Guilt has no place in your healing. You are not abandoning anyone by choosing yourself. You're honoring your worth. You're not turning your back on people. You're turning toward peace. And peace, true peace, is worth more than 1,000 forced connections. So let go. Let go of what drains you, confuses you, belittles you. Let go without needing to be understood. Let go without the drama, the explanations, or the tears. Let go quietly, but confidently. Because your peace is not up for debate. It is not negotiable. It is your right. Your peace is your responsibility. You weren't born to please everyone, to absorb chaos, or to constantly explain your worth. You were born to live with intention, to feel deeply but respond wisely, to set boundaries that protect your soul, and to walk away from what dims your light. Caring too much for those who give nothing in return will only drain you. True emotional mastery lies not in shutting off your feelings, but in choosing how and when to express them. Silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. It's the space where you regain control, where your clarity grows louder than the noise around you. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're clarity. They're how you honor yourself, not how you push others away. Feeling deeply doesn't mean acting on impulse. It means knowing when to act and when to let go. And letting go without guilt is not a cold act. It's the warmest kind of self-respect. This is your time to reclaim your power. You don't need to explain, react, or prove anything to anyone. Protect your peace. Guard your energy. And walk boldly in the direction of your worth. Because the moment you choose yourself, everything changes.